The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES Defiance. Commander Yoon Tai-ho had been staring at them for 3 hours now, watching the endless darkness between distant suns. His ship was humanity's first real attempt at deep space exploration, built with the best technology Earth could offer. It wasn't much compared to what they would find out there, but it was theirs. "Commander, we're picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Park Min-ho from his station. The young man's fingers danced over his controls, adjusting sensors and filters. "It's a signal, but not like anything in our databases." Tae-ho moved to the communications station where Specialist Kim Da-eun was working. Her face was pale as she listened through her headset. "Sir, it's definitely artificial. Someone is broadcasting this on multiple frequencies. I think it's a distress call." The bridge fell quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. They were 3 months out from Earth, farther than any human had ever traveled. The idea that they might encounter other intelligent life had always been possible, but now it was real. "Can you clean it up?" Tae-ho asked. Da-eun nodded and worked her magic with the communications array. Slowly, the static cleared, and a voice came through. It was nothing like a human voice. It sounded like music made of crystal and wind. But somehow the translation software managed to make sense of it. "This is the Villani ship Crystal Wind. We are under attack. Our world is dying. If anyone receives this message, please help us. We have nowhere else to go." The message repeated over and over, getting weaker each time. Tae-ho felt something cold in his stomach. Whoever these Villani were, they were in real trouble. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures in the direction of that signal," reported Min-ho. "Multiple ships, some kind of battle happening. And, sir, there are a lot of bodies floating out there." Tae-ho closed his eyes for a moment. They were just one ship, far from home, with no backup coming. Earth didn't even know they were receiving alien signals. But someone was dying out there, and they were the only ones who could help. "Set course for the signal source. Maximum speed." "Sir," Min-ho said quietly, "if we get involved in an alien war, we might not come home." "I know, Lieutenant, but we can't just fly away and let people die. Send a message to Earth. Tell them what we found and what we're doing." The Defiance changed course and accelerated. As they got closer, the battle became visible on their screens. Massive black ships, shaped like insects, were attacking smaller, beautiful vessels that seemed to be made of living crystal. The crystal ships were losing badly. "My God," whispered Da-eun. "Those black ships are tearing them apart." One of the crystal ships broke away from the battle and approached the Defiance. A new voice came over the communication system, speaking perfect English somehow. "Human vessel. I am Captain Kim Da-eun of the Villani Defense Fleet. Thank you for answering our call. I must warn you, the Devourer swarm shows no mercy to any living thing. If you have weapons, we could use your help. If not, please flee while you can." Tae-ho realized the alien captain had the same name as his communications officer. It seemed like an impossible coincidence, but there was no time to think about it. "Captain, this is Commander Tae-ho. We're not much, but we'll fight with you." "What are we facing?" "The Devourers consume everything. Metal, energy, life itself. They've already taken 12 of our worlds. This is our last fleet, and we're protecting the evacuation ships carrying our children." On the screen, Tae-ho could see smaller crystal ships racing away from the battle, clearly trying to escape. The black ships were chasing them, getting closer. "Every second. All hands, this is the commander," Tae-ho announced over the ship's internal communications. "We're about to enter combat against an enemy that wants to destroy an entire civilization. I won't lie to you. We'll probably die out here. But we're the only thing standing between those evacuation ships and extinction. If anyone objects, speak now." The bridge was silent. Then, one by one, every station reported ready for battle. "Take us in, Mr. Min-ho. Target the ships pursuing the evacuees." The Defiance might have been small compared to the alien vessels, but human weapons were designed for one thing: destroying other ships as efficiently as possible. Their first missile volley caught the Devourers completely off guard, destroying 3 of their ships in bright explosions. The battle was chaos. The Defiance danced between the massive alien ships, too small and fast for the Devourers to target easily. Meanwhile, the Vallani ships rallied, fighting harder now that they had help. But the cost was terrible. Taeho watched as two more human ships, when he hadn't even known they were in the area, arrived to help and were torn apart by devourer weapons. Good people died in those explosions, including his younger brother Jae-sung, who had been serving as an engineer on one of the destroyed ships. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the devourer fleet was retreating, and the Vallani evacuation ships were safe, but the price had been high. 3 human ships were gone, along with over 2,000 crew members. Captain Kim Da-yoon's ship approached the Defiance. The alien's image appeared on their screen, a tall, graceful being that looked like it was made of living crystal and light. Despite the strange appearance, her eyes showed the same grief that Taeho felt. "Commander Taeho, we owe you a debt that can never be repaid. Your people saved 4.2 billion Vallani lives today. We had no right to ask for your help, but you gave it freely. We couldn't just watch people die," Taeho replied simply. "This is why we believe your species is special. You risked everything for strangers. We would like to offer you an alliance, our technology in exchange for your friendship. Together, perhaps we can build something better than what we had before." Taeho thought about his brother, about all the people who had died, but he also thought about the billions of lives they had saved, and the hope in the alien captain's voice. "We'd be honored to call you friends." As the two fleets limped toward Vallani space, neither species realized they had just changed the course of galactic history. The first interspecies alliance was born in fire and sacrifice, built on humanity's willingness to help and the Vallani's gratitude. It would be remembered as the beginning of a golden age, but it would also be remembered as the day the universe learned what humans would do for their friends, and what they might do if that friendship was betrayed. 20 years had passed since the first battle with the Devourer swarm. Admiral Lee So-min stood on the observation deck of Haven's Gate, the massive space station that served as headquarters for the Galactic Defense Initiative. Through the transparent steel, she could see ships from dozens of different species docking and departing. It was a sight that still amazed her. The station itself was a marvel of cooperation. Human engineering had provided the basic structure, but Vallani crystal technology made the shields that protected it. Hydro's water recycling systems kept everyone supplied with fresh water, while Chitauri biocomputers managed the complex logistics of coordinating multiple species. "Admiral, the morning briefing is ready," said Captain Nam Ji-hai, her aide and one of the finest officers in the fleet. The young woman had grown up in this new age of galactic cooperation, and it showed in her easy confidence with alien cultures. So-min nodded and made her way to the command center. The briefing room was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Commander Yoon Tae-ho, now older and bearing the scars of many battles, sat next to Captain Kim Da-yoon of the Vallani fleet. The alien captain had become one of humanity's closest friends over the years, working together on dozens of peacekeeping missions. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo, the chief xenobiologist, was reviewing data with his counterpart from the Luminary, beings made of pure energy who had joined the Alliance 5 years ago. They were working on a cure for a plague that had been threatening the Outer Rim worlds. "Status report," So-min said as she took her seat. "The Kepler colony situation has been resolved," reported Captain Nam. "The dispute between the mining companies and the native population was settled peacefully. Both sides agreed to share the ER planet's resources. The pirate problem in the Vega system is handled too," added Commander Taeho. "Joint task force of human and Chitauri ships cleared them out yesterday. No casualties on our side." So-min smiled. This was how things worked now. Problems that might have led to wars in the old days were solved through cooperation and understanding. The galaxy had never been more peaceful. "What about the Titan research project?" So-min asked Dr. Choi. The scientist's eyes lit up. "Remarkable progress, Admiral. Working with Vallani crystal technology and Hydros bioengineering, we've developed a way to terraform dead worlds in just 50 years instead of centuries. We could bring life to thousands of barren planets." It was typical of the advances they were making. Each species brought their own strengths to the Alliance, and together, they were accomplishing things none of them could have done alone. Humans provided leadership and adaptability, The Villani offered their advanced energy systems, the aquatic hydros shared their biological expertise, and the insectoid Chitauri contributed their incredible organizational skills. The alliance had grown from the original human-Villani partnership to include 17 different species. They called it the Galactic Cooperative, and it was changing everything. Trade routes that had been dangerous for centuries were now safe. Scientific research was advancing at an incredible pace. Art and culture were being shared across species barriers, and at the center of it all was humanity. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they had something special. They genuinely cared about helping others. "Admiral, we have a request for assistance from the Procyon system," Captain Nam reported. "Massive solar flares are threatening 3 inhabited worlds. They need evacuation support." "How many ships do we need?" Somin asked. "At least 50 transports plus escorts. It'll be a major operation." Somin didn't hesitate. "Send the word to all member species. Anyone who can help should respond immediately." Within hours, ships from across the galaxy were moving toward Procyon. Human transports, Villani energy ships, Hydros bio-vessels, and others, all working together to save lives. It had become routine, this kind of cooperation. When someone needed help, the Alliance responded. Later that day, Somin met with Dr. Han Soo-jin, the head of the Cultural Exchange Program. The program had been her idea, a way to help different species understand each other better. "How are the exchange students doing?" Somin asked. Dr. Han smiled. "Better than we ever expected. The young Chitauri studying on Earth are fascinated by human art and music. Meanwhile, our students on Villani Prime are learning crystal singing. Apparently, humans have a natural talent for it. Any problems?" "Minor ones. Some cultural misunderstandings, mostly about food and social customs. But nothing serious. The younger generation from all species seems to adapt quickly." Somin nodded. The children who grew up in this new galaxy would be different from their parents. They would see cooperation as normal, alliance as natural. They were building the foundation for a future where war between intelligent species might become impossible. That evening, Somin attended a concert in the station's cultural center. A mixed choir of humans and Villani were performing a piece that had been composed jointly by musicians from both species. The harmony was beautiful, voices that had evolved on different worlds coming together to create something new. As she listened, Somin reflected on how far they had all come. 20 years ago, humanity had been alone in the galaxy, just beginning to explore the stars. Now they were part of something bigger, something that gave meaning to all the sacrifices that had been made. The next morning brought news that made Somin's heart swell with pride. The Devourer swarm, the ancient enemy that had nearly destroyed the Villani, had been spotted in a distant galaxy. But instead of fleeing or preparing for war, the species there had sent a request for help. They had heard about the Galactic Cooperative and wanted to learn how to build their own alliance. "We're not just protecting our own galaxy anymore," Captain Nam observed. "We're becoming an example for the whole universe." "That's a big responsibility," Somin replied. "Good thing we have the right species leading the way." Somin looked out at the busy docking bays of Haven's Gate, where beings from across the galaxy worked side by side. Human engineers helping Chitauri technicians, Villani artists teaching Hydros children, Luminari scholars debating philosophy with human philosophers. This was what they had built. This was what humanity's sacrifice had made possible. A galaxy where different species didn't just coexist but helped each other thrive. Where problems were solved through cooperation instead of war. Where the strong protected the weak not for profit or power, but because it was right. Admiral Lee Somin had seen a lot in her career. She had fought pirates and negotiated treaties. She had watched the alliance grow from a desperate partnership between two species to a galactic civilization. She had seen humanity evolve from curious explorers to respected leaders. But as she watched the daily miracle of interspecies cooperation unfolding around her, she knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and challenges they hadn't even imagined yet. And whatever came next, they would face it together. In the dark corners of space, ancient powers watched this new age with growing unease. The galaxy's old ways of competition and conquest were being replaced by something dangerous, hope, and some beings would do anything to stop it. In the depths of the Korthak Imperial Palace, Emperor Vex Korthal studied the holographic display showing human ships patrolling his borders. The ancient ruler's 4 eyes glowed with hatred as he watched the mammals who had dared to upset the galaxy's natural order. For 3,000 years, the Korthak Empire had been the dominant power in this sector. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved countless species. The weak served the strong. This was the way of the universe. But then the humans had arrived with their talk of friendship and cooperation, and everything had changed. "My lord, the final preparations are complete," said General Korth Vanak, his chief military advisor. The scarred warrior bore the marks of many battles, including several defeats against human forces who had protected species the Korthak meant to conquer. "Show me," the Emperor commanded. The display changed to show a complex web of fabricated evidence. False communication records showing human leaders discussing secret plans. Fake documents outlining humanity's supposed desire to dominate all alien species. Video recordings that had been carefully altered to make human actions seem threatening instead of helpful. "The beauty of it is that it's almost believable," General Korth Vanak explained. "We've taken real human military communications and twisted them. Their plans to protect other species become plans to control them. Their research into alien biology becomes research into alien weaknesses." Emperor Vex Korthal smiled, showing teeth like black diamonds. "And our allies in this deception? Several species have their own reasons for wanting the humans removed from power. The Nexari feel the humans have become too influential in galactic trade. The Zephyrians are jealous of humanity's close relationship with the Volani, and there are others who simply prefer the old ways, when strength mattered more than compassion. The plan was masterful in its simplicity. They would not attack humanity directly. That would only prove human propaganda about their aggressive nature. Instead, they would turn the galaxy against the humans using humanity's greatest weakness, their trust in others. The first seeds of doubt were planted carefully. Anonymous messages were sent to minor alliance members containing leaked human documents that seemed to show humanity's true intentions. The messages were designed to look like they came from concerned aliens within the human government. Captain Namji Hai was the first to notice something was wrong. She was leading a routine patrol when 3 Allied ships suddenly changed course to avoid her squadron. "Strange," she said to her communications officer. "The Hydro ships usually want to coordinate patrols with us. I've been getting odd responses to our normal communications too," the officer replied. "Like they don't trust us anymore." Similar reports came in from across the galaxy. Species that had worked closely with humans for years were suddenly distant and suspicious. Trade agreements were being questioned. Joint research projects were being canceled. Admiral Lee So-min called an emergency meeting with the Alliance leadership. She was shocked to find that several key species had sent lower-level representatives instead of their usual ambassadors. "What's going on?" she asked Captain Kim Da-eun of the Volani. "Why is everyone acting like we have some kind of disease?" The crystal being's response chilled her to the bone. "Admiral, there are rumors. Disturbing rumors about humanity's true intentions." "What kind of rumors?" Da-eun hesitated, then activated a holographic display. "These documents were discovered 3 days ago. They appear to show human leaders discussing something called the final solution to the alien problem." So-min stared at the documents in horror. They looked real. The formatting was correct. The signatures appeared genuine. Even the technical language sounded right. But she knew they were lies. "This is fake," she said firmly. "I know every person mentioned in these documents. We would never plan something like this." "But Admiral," said the Chitauri representative, "the technical analysis shows these are authentic human communications. How do you explain that?" So-min felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. Someone had done an incredibly good job of framing humanity, using their own communication systems against them. But who would have the resources and knowledge to pull off such a deception? The answer came a week later, when Emperor Vex Korthul made a galaxy-wide broadcast. He appeared as a concerned leader warning other species about the human threat. "My friends," he said in a voice that dripped with false sympathy, "it pains me to bring you this news. But the evidence is clear. Humanity has been deceiving us, all. Their talk of peace and cooperation has been a lie designed to make us lower our guard." The broadcast showed the fake documents, along with carefully edited footage of human military exercises that made them look like preparations for conquest. Expert analysts, all secretly working for the Korthak Empire, testified that the evidence was genuine. The reaction was swift and devastating. Species that had fought alongside humans for decades turned their backs overnight. The Chitauri recalled their ambassadors. The Hydros canceled all trade agreements. Even the Luminari, who seemed genuinely fond of humanity, voted to suspend all joint research projects. The final blow came from the Villani. Captain Kim Da-yoon, humanity's first and closest alien friend, appeared on every news channel in the galaxy to deliver a statement that broke Admiral Somin's heart. "With great sorrow, we announce that the Villani Republic is dissolving all treaties with the human species," Da-yoon said, her crystal form somehow managing to look sad and stern at the same time. "The evidence of their deception is overwhelming. We realize now that helping them 20 years ago was our greatest mistake. Humanity's hunger for power knows no bounds." Somin tried desperately to present counter-evidence to show that the documents were fake. But every time she tried to speak, she was branded a war criminal who couldn't be trusted. The galaxy that had once celebrated human leadership now saw them as the greatest threat to galactic peace. The Galactic Council, the democratic institution that humanity had helped create, voted unanimously to exile all humans from civilized space. They were given 30 standard days to leave every world outside human territory or face protective intervention by a joint alien fleet. Captain Nam Ji-hai led the evacuation effort. 50 million humans living on alien worlds had to abandon everything they had built. She watched families cry as they left homes where their children had been born. Scientists wept as they were forced to destroy research that could have benefited the entire galaxy. "Why are they doing this to us?" asked Dr. Choi Hyun-woo as he supervised the evacuation of his xenobiology research station. "We gave them everything. We shared our technology, our culture, our friendship, and they believe we're monsters based on fake documents?" Nam Ji-hai looked at the alien ships surrounding them, weapons trained on the human transports. Ships that had once fought beside them now treated them like enemies. "I don't know," she said quietly. "But I promise you this. We'll remember who stood with us when it mattered, and who didn't." The last human transport ship left Allied space exactly 30 days after the ultimatum was issued. As Nam Ji-hai watched the border markers disappear behind them, she felt something cold settle in her heart. It wasn't hatred, not yet. It was something worse, the death of trust. Humanity had learned a terrible lesson. They had opened their hearts to the galaxy and been rewarded with betrayal. They had shared their strength with others and been accused of seeking domination. They had built something beautiful and watched it torn apart by lies. In the depths of space, Emperor Vex Korthul celebrated his victory. The humans were gone, and the galaxy could return to the proper order where strength ruled and the weak served. He had no idea that he had made the biggest mistake in galactic history, because humanity wasn't gone. They were just learning to be different. The species that had once fought for others out of love was about to discover what it meant to fight out of fury, and when they returned, and they would return, the galaxy would learn the difference between humanity's friendship and humanity's wrath. The betrayal was complete. The exile had begun. And somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity was getting ready to show the universe what happened when you mistook kindness for weakness. General Kang Woo-jin stood on the observation deck of the fortress world New Seoul, watching construction crews work on the massive defense platforms that now surrounded the planet. 5 years had passed since the Great Betrayal, and humanity had used every day of those years to prepare for what might come next. The rim worlds had become humanity's new home. These distant planets, far from the galaxy's core, had once been considered worthless, too far from trade routes, too dangerous, too isolated. Now, they were humanity's strength. Here, surrounded by asteroid fields and nebulae that made attack difficult, the human species was rebuilding itself, but they were building something very different from what they had been before. "General, the new ships are ready for testing," reported Master Engineer Shin Dong-hyuk. The man's face was scarred from an accident during the early days of the evacuation, but his eyes burned with the same intensity that drove all of humanity. Now, the Mark 7 fighters are 40% faster than anything in the galaxy, and the new battleships, well, let's just say they would make our old friends think twice about attacking us. Kang Woo-jin nodded. "What about the enhancement program?" Dr. Han Soo-jin stepped forward. The scientist had once worked on peaceful projects, trying to understand alien biology to help different species work together. Now she focused on making humans stronger, faster, and more deadly. "The genetic modifications are working perfectly," she reported. "Reaction times improved by 60%, strength increased by 80%, and mental processing speed up by 45%. The enhanced soldiers can operate in environments that would kill normal humans and fight for days without rest." "And the psychological effects?" Dr. Han's expression darkened slightly. "The soldiers are different, colder, more focused on the mission. But that might not be entirely due to the genetic changes. Everyone who volunteered for the program had lost someone in the evacuation. They want revenge." Kang Woo-jin understood that feeling well. His own daughter had been studying on a Volani world when the betrayal happened. She had been forced to leave behind years of research and the alien friends she had considered family. The last message she had sent before going into military training had been simple: "They'll pay for this, Dad." The human colonies on the rim worlds had become military bases. Children learned to fight alongside their regular studies. Every adult served in some capacity, either as soldiers, engineers, scientists, or support personnel. Humanity had become a weapon pointed at the galaxy that had rejected them, but the weapon was still sheathed. For 5 years, humanity had maintained complete radio silence with the rest of the galaxy. No trade, no communication, no contact of any kind. As far as the other species knew, the humans had simply vanished into the dark. "General, we're receiving another transmission from the Chitauri," reported Communications Chief Bae Yeon-hee. "Their queen is personally asking for help with the pirate raids in their territory." Kang Woo-jin didn't even look up from his reports. Standard response: "Yes, sir." Bae activated the automated system that sent the same message they had been sending for 3 years. "The human species is no longer available to provide assistance to alien civilizations. Do not contact us again." The messages had been getting more desperate lately. The galaxy was falling apart without humanity's stabilizing influence. Pirate attacks had increased by 400% in the past 2 years. Border disputes that had been settled through human mediation were turning into full wars. And worst of all, the Devourer swarm, the ancient enemy that humanity had helped defeat decades ago, had returned. Colonel Yu Sang-ho entered the command center, fresh from leading a training exercise with the enhanced soldiers. The man had once been known for his jokes and easy smile. Now he was cold and efficient like most of the military leadership. "Sir, we've intercepted communication suggesting the Volani homeworld is under attack," he reported. "It appears the Korthak Empire is making its move while everyone is distracted by the Devourer swarm." Kang Woo-jin felt a brief flash of satisfaction. Emperor Vex Korthol had played his game well, turning the galaxy against humanity. But the Emperor had made one crucial mistake. He had assumed that removing humans from the equation would make conquest easier. Instead, it had removed the only force capable of organizing effective resistance. "Any requests for assistance?" "Multiple?" "Sir, the Galactic Council sent a formal apology and a plea for help. The Volani government sent a personal message from Captain Kim Da-un." That name made Kang Woo-jin pause. Da-un had been one of humanity's closest friends before the betrayal. Her statement condemning humans as power-hungry deceivers had been particularly painful to watch. What did she say? Colonel Yu pulled up the message. Da-un's crystal form appeared on the holographic display, but she looked different now. Dimmer, more fragile. Her voice carried a note of desperation that would have moved human hearts just a few years ago. To our former human allies, she began, we know we have no right to ask for your help. We know we failed you when you needed us to trust in our friendship. But our worlds are burning and our children are dying. Please, if any trace of the compassion that once defined your species remains, help us. We were wrong. We are sorry. Please don't let our mistakes doom us all. The room was silent for a long moment. Several of the officers looked uncomfortable. Despite everything that had happened, humans still had a hard time ignoring cries for help. Orders, sir? Colonel Yu asked quietly. Kang Wu-jin looked at the faces of his staff. These were good people who had been shaped by betrayal and loss into something harder than they had ever wanted to be. The old humanity would have rushed to help, would have forgiven and forgotten in the face of suffering, but the old humanity was gone. Send Captain Da-yun a personal reply, he said finally. Colonel Yu activated the communication system. Kang Wu-jin looked directly into the camera, knowing his words would reach the alien who had once called humans her eternal friends. Captain Da-un, this is General Kang Wu-jin of the Human Defense Coalition. You taught us a valuable lesson about the nature of friendship. You showed us that help given freely can be taken away just as easily. You demonstrated that decades of loyalty and sacrifice mean nothing when convenient lies are offered as alternatives. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. We won't make the mistake of trusting the galaxy again. You chose to believe we were monsters based on fabricated evidence. You chose to exile us rather than investigate the truth. You chose to abandon the alliance we built together in favor of the very enemies we once fought side by side to defeat. Kang Wu-jin's voice grew colder. Now you face the consequences of those choices. The humans who once died to protect you are gone. In their place, you'll find only those who remember how our kindness was repaid with betrayal. Sleep well in the bed. You made, Captain. You'll find no comfort from us. The transmission ended. The command center remained silent. Finally, Dr. Han spoke up. Sir, the galaxy really is dying out there. Billions of innocent people who had nothing to do with the betrayal. I know, Kang Wu-jin replied. But we tried to save the galaxy once, and they called us conquerors for our troubles. We won't make that mistake again. Master strategist Bai Yan-he had been studying intelligence reports from across the galaxy. General, the situation is deteriorating rapidly. At this rate, the Korthak Empire and the Devourer Swarm will control most of known space within 2 years. Let them, Kang Wu-jin said harshly. Maybe when the galaxy is burning, they'll understand what they lost when they chose lies over truth. But, even as he spoke those words, Kang Wu-jin knew that humanity's isolation couldn't last forever. The rim worlds were strong, but they weren't infinite. Eventually, the chaos in the galaxy would reach them. And when it did, they would have to choose between revenge and survival. The old humanity would have chosen mercy. The new humanity was still deciding what they had become. In the darkness between stars, the enhanced soldiers trained for wars that hadn't started yet. And in the heart of human space, the species that had once been the galaxy's protectors prepared for the day when they would emerge from exile, not as saviors, but as something the universe had never seen before. The silence would end soon, and when it did, the galaxy would learn what happened when you betrayed humanity's trust. The attack came without warning. Admiral Lim Jun-seok watched the tactical display as Korthak Empire fleet struck 12 worlds simultaneously. The Villani homeworld fell in 6 hours. The aquatic cities of Hydros Prime were burning beneath. Their oceans, the proud luminary, were being harvested like crops, their energy forms trapped in containment fields. Sir, we're receiving over 3,000 distress calls, reported Communications Officer Kim Young-ho. The young man's enhanced reflexes allowed him to process the flood of desperate messages, faster than any normal human could have managed. Lim Junseok stood on the bridge of the HSS Retribution, flagship of the human fleet that had been rebuilt in the 5 years of exile. Around him, his enhanced crew worked with cold efficiency, their genetically modified minds processing information at superhuman speeds. "Patch through the Galactic Council's emergency session," he ordered. The holographic display showed beings from across the galaxy in various states of panic. The crystal Villani were dim with fear. The insectoid Chitauri were clicking frantically, and the energy beings of the Luminari flickered like dying flames. "Please," begged Council Speaker Zeth Villana, the same Villani who had voted to exile humanity 5 years ago. "We know we have no right to ask, but you're the only ones strong enough to stop this. The Korthak Empire has enslaved half the galaxy in 3 days. At this rate, everyone will be dead or in chains within a month." Lim Junseok watched the alien who had once called humans a threat to galactic peace now begging for their help. He felt no satisfaction in being proven right, only the cold anger that had sustained humanity through their years of exile. "Why should we help you?" he asked simply. The question hung in the air like a blade. The assembled aliens shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet his gaze through the holographic connection. Because it's right," Speaker Zeth Villana said finally. "Because you're better than we were. Because you save people even when they don't deserve it." "We used to," Lim Junseok replied. "But you taught us that saving people who don't deserve it only leads to betrayal." Colonel An Mireille stepped forward. The enhanced soldier had lost her entire family during the evacuation from alien worlds. Her genetic modifications had made her faster and stronger, but it was grief that had made her deadly. "Sir, they made their choice 5 years ago. They believed lies about us rather than trusting decades of friendship. They chose to exile the only force that could protect them. Let them live with the consequences." Several other officers nodded in agreement. These were people who had given everything for galactic peace and been rewarded with exile and disgrace. The old human instinct to help was still there, but it was buried under layers of hurt and betrayal. But Dr. Han Soo-jin, the chief scientist, who had helped create the enhanced soldiers, spoke up with a different perspective. "Colonel An is right, they chose this. But we didn't become protectors for gratitude. We did it because it was right. If we let billions die because their leaders were foolish, what does that make us?" The debate that followed was fierce but brief. In the end, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would return to the galaxy, but not as the naive protectors they had once been. This time, they would fight on their own terms. "Open a channel to all human fleets," Lim Junseok ordered. Across human space, enhanced soldiers stopped their training and listened as their supreme commander spoke. 5 years ago, we were betrayed by those we tried to protect. We were called conquerors for being protectors, monsters for showing mercy. Today, those same beings ask for our help against the real monsters they helped to empower." He paused, letting the weight of history settle over his words. "We will answer their call. Not because they deserve it, but because we are still human. But this time, we fight as we choose to fight. No more asking permission. No more gentle methods. No more mercy for those who show no mercy to others." The human armada that emerged from the rim worlds was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ships were sleek and deadly, built with technology that had advanced rapidly during humanity's isolation. Their names told the story of what humanity had become: HSS Broken Promise, HSS Never Again, HSS Price of Betrayal, HSS Lesson Learned. The first battle was at the Arcturus system, where Korthak forces were systematically destroying a Chitauri colony. The aliens had expected the humans to follow the old rules of engagement, identify themselves, attempt negotiation, avoid civilian casualties at all costs. Instead, the human fleet simply appeared and began firing. No warnings, no negotiations, no mercy. The enhanced human crews worked with machine-like precision, targeting enemy weak points with surgical accuracy. The Korthak fleet was destroyed in 12 minutes without a single human casualty. Emperor Vex Corthul watched the battle, reports with growing unease. These humans fought nothing like the ones he remembered. They showed no concern for alien opinion, no hesitation about using maximum force, no attempt to minimize enemy losses. "My lord," reported General Korth Vanak, "they've hit 17 of our fleets in the past week. Our losses are significant." "Significant?" the Emperor hissed. "They've destroyed 300 ships. How are they moving so fast?" The truth was terrible in its simplicity. The enhanced humans needed no rest, no lengthy planning sessions, no time to debate ethics. They identified threats and eliminated them with ruthless efficiency. Their improved reflexes and processing speed allowed them to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. But it was the psychological warfare that truly terrified the galaxy. Admiral Lim Jun-seok had opened a communication channel that reached every inhabited world in known space. His message was broadcast continuously as human fleets swept across the galaxy like a tide of cold fury. "This is Admiral Lim Jun-seok of the Human Defense Coalition. 5 years ago, you chose to believe lies about our intentions. You chose to exile us rather than trust in decades of friendship. You chose to replace our protection with the empty promises of your enemies, the O." Message played over images of human ships destroying Korthak fleets with terrifying efficiency. "Today you see the consequences of those choices. You wanted to know what humanity looks like without mercy? This is what you get when you mistake kindness for weakness. We are no longer your friends. We are no longer your protectors. We are the force that cleans up the mess you made when you chose lies over loyalty." The psychological impact was devastating. Alien populations that had celebrated humanity's exile now watched in terror as their former protectors fought like avenging angels. The humans showed no interest in gratitude or recognition. They simply eliminated threats and moved on. The war lasted 18 months. The Korthak Empire, which had taken centuries to build, was systematically dismantled by human forces that fought without pause or mercy. Emperor Vex Corthul himself was captured alive and delivered to the species he had enslaved for judgment. But humanity didn't stop with the Korthak Empire. Every pirate fleet, every slaver operation, every threat to galactic stability was hunted, down, and destroyed. The enhanced human soldiers moved through space like shadows of death, unstoppable and unforgiving. When the fighting finally ended, the galaxy was indeed at peace. But it was a different kind of peace, one maintained by fear rather than friendship. The human fleets patrolled known space, silent guardians who helped when needed but no longer asked for gratitude or trust. The Galactic Council sent delegations offering humanity full membership and leadership positions. The offers were ignored. The Villani sent gifts of apology and attempts at reconciliation. They were returned unopened. Species that had once called humans friends now maintained careful distance from the patrol fleets. Admiral Lim Jun-seok stood once again on the bridge of the Retribution, watching alien vessels carefully avoid his fleet's patrol route. The galaxy was safe, protected by beings who no longer cared if they were loved or hated. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Kim, "we're receiving a message from the Terran colonies. They want to know if we're planning to return home." Lim Jun-seok considered the question. Earth seemed like a distant memory now, a place where naive humans had once believed in the goodness of others. The enhanced soldiers who served under him had been shaped by betrayal into something harder and more effective than their predecessors. "Tell them we're exactly where we need to be," he said finally, because humanity had learned the universe's lesson. They had saved the galaxy twice, once with love, once with fury. The universe remembered both lessons now. The species that had once been celebrated as protectors were now feared as enforcers. The stars shone a little dimmer in this new age, and trust had become a luxury no one could afford. Humanity had helped once with open hearts and been rewarded with betrayal. Now they helped with clenched fists, and the universe trembled at the difference. They had become what the galaxy had forced them to become. Not friends, but guardians. Not protectors, but enforcers. Not the species who saved others out of love, but the ones who saved them out of duty. And in the cold depths of space, that was perhaps the most terrifying transformation of all.